The emergency broadcast cut through every communication channel in the Galactic Union simultaneously. Across 1,000 worlds, in council chambers and military command centers, the message played with crystal clarity. This is Ambassador Sarah Chen of the Terran Diplomatic Corps, speaking from Earth's orbital station above our homeworld. Her voice carried a weight that made even the most battle-hardened alien commanders pause their conversations. For 50 years, humanity has asked politely. We have requested, negotiated, and pleaded. We have followed every protocol, honored every treaty, and respected every custom. The holographic image showed a woman with tired eyes and steel in her voice, standing before a viewport that revealed the blue marble of Earth behind her. Today, that changes. Consider this humanity's final diplomatic communication. What follows will not be a request. The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the galaxy's most powerful beings staring at silent screens, wondering what the small species from the third planet had finally decided to do. Chapter 1. The Breaking Point. 3 days earlier, Captain Marcus Rivera stood on the bridge of the UES Perseverance, watching through the main viewport as another human colony ship was turned away from the Kepler system. The massive vessel, carrying 50,000 sleeping colonists, had to reverse course yet again. That's the 7th rejection this month, said his first officer, Lieutenant Sarah Kim, her voice tight with frustration. The Zephyrians claim the system is culturally significant, even though they've never set foot on any of those planets. Marcus rubbed his temples, feeling the familiar headache that had become his constant companion. As the leader of humanity's exploration fleet, he'd spent the last decade watching his species get pushed around by every major power in the galaxy. "Sir," Communications Officer Torres called out, "we're receiving a priority message from Earth. It's Ambassador Chen." The hologram materialized in the center of the bridge. Sarah Chen looked exhausted, her usually perfect diplomatic attire wrinkled, her graying hair slightly disheveled. "Marcus, I need you to return to Earth immediately. Bring the entire fleet." "What's happened?" Marcus asked, though he could guess from her expression. "The Galactic Council has voted. Resolution 47B has passed." Sarah's voice was hollow. "Humanity is officially classified as a developing species and barred from colonizing any system within 50 light-years of an established civilization." The bridge fell silent. Marcus felt something cold settle in his stomach. 50 light-years might sound like a lot, but in galactic terms it meant humanity was trapped in a tiny bubble of space, forbidden from expanding while other species claimed entire sectors. "Ma'am," Lieutenant Kim stepped forward. "That's impossible. The nearest, unclaimed systems under those restrictions would be in the outer rim. The journey alone would take centuries," Sarah finished. "Yes, Lieutenant, that's the point. The major powers want us contained." Marcus stared at the star map displaying on the main screen. Red zones marked off-limits territory now surrounded Earth like a cage. "What's our government's response?" For the first time in the 5 years he'd known her, Ambassador Chen smiled. It wasn't a pleasant expression. "That's what I need to discuss with you in person. All of you. Every human ship, every colony, every outpost. We're calling everyone home." The transmission ended, leaving the crew exchanging worried glances. "Sir?" Torres asked quietly. "Are we really going back?" Marcus looked at the distant stars, then at the faces of his crew. These people had spent their lives exploring, discovering, pushing the boundaries of human knowledge and presence in the galaxy. The thought of retreating felt like swallowing poison. "Set course for Earth," he said finally. "Maximum burn, and send word to all our ships. It's time to go home." As the Perseverance turned toward Earth, none of them could imagine what awaited them there. Chapter 2. The Gathering Storm. Earth Orbital Station. Gamma. The docking bay had never seen so many ships at once. Sleek exploration vessels nestled beside massive colony ships, while smaller research craft found space wherever they could. Representatives from every human settlement in the galaxy had answered the call. Marcus walked through the station's main corridor, marveling at the diversity of the crowd. There were deep space miners with cybernetic implants, terraforming engineers still carrying the red dust of Mars on their boots, and diplomats from the outer colonies he'd never even heard of. The TY conference room had been expanded 3 times to accommodate everyone, but it was still packed. Marcus found himself squeezed between Captain Elena Vasquez of the colony ship New Horizon and Dr. James Wright, the head of the Titan Research Station. Ambassador Chen entered, flanked by 2 people Marcus didn't recognize, a tall man with military bearing and a woman whose augmented eyes suggested she was from one of the tech colonies. "Thank you all for coming," Sarah began, her voice carrying clearly through the room. "I know many of you have traveled far, leaving your commands and responsibilities. What I'm about to share with you will explain why." The lights dimmed, and a holographic display showed the Galactic Council chamber. The familiar semicircle of alien delegates filled the space, representing over 300 species. "This was recorded 6 days ago during the emergency session," Sarah continued. "The motion was proposed by the Hegemony Coalition, the Zephyrians, the Corvan Empire, and the Silicon Collective." The recording began to play. A Zephyrian delegate, its crystalline form refracting light in elegant patterns, stood to address the assembly. "The human species has shown concerning signs of aggressive expansion," the alien's translated voice echoed through the room. "In just 50 years since first contact, they have attempted to establish colonies in 14 different systems. This rate of growth is unprecedented and potentially destabilizing." Murmurs of discontent rippled through the human audience, but Sarah raised her hand for silence. The recording continued as a Corvan representative, looking like a cross between a lizard and a bear, added its voice. "The humans also show disturbing signs of military capability. Their exploration vessels carry weapons far beyond what is necessary for self-defense. Those are mining lasers and asteroid deflection systems," Captain Vasquez whispered angrily. On screen, the Silicon Collective's representative, a flowing mass of intelligent nanomachines, spoke in its electronic voice. "Furthermore, human technology advancement is proceeding at an alarming rate. They have gone from primitive chemical rockets to faster-than-light travel in less than 2 centuries. This suggests either illegal technology transfer or natural capabilities that could pose a threat to galactic stability." Marcus felt his hands clench into fists. Everything these aliens described as threatening was simply humanity doing what it had always done, exploring, learning, and adapting. The recording showed the vote. Species after species cast their decision, and the pattern was clear. The major powers voted to restrict humanity, while smaller species either abstained or were simply ignored. Final tally: 847 votes for restriction, 23 opposed, 156 abstentions. The hologram disappeared, leaving the room in tense silence. "They're afraid of us," Dr. Wright said quietly. "After all these years of thinking we were the small fish in a big pond, they're actually afraid of what we might become." Sarah nodded. "The restrictions aren't just about colonization. They're also limiting our access to certain technologies, trade routes, and scientific collaborations. They want to keep us contained and controlled." "So, what do?" asked a voice from the back of the room. "File another appeal? Schedule more diplomatic meetings?" The tall man beside Sarah stepped forward. "Allow me to introduce myself. I'm General Patricia Stone, head of Earth Strategic Defense Command. And no, we're not filing any more appeals." A chill ran through the room. General Stone was a legend. She'd been one of the first humans to explore beyond the solar system, and her tactical brilliance was respected even among alien military circles. "For 50 years, Stone continued, we've played by their rules. We've been the polite newcomers, grateful for any scraps they threw our way. We've accepted their restrictions, their condescension, their casual dismissal of our rights as a sovereign species." She activated another holographic display, this one showing star charts with human positions marked in blue and alien territories. in various colors. What they didn't realize is that while we were being polite, we were also paying attention. We've mapped their trade routes, studied their military deployments, and analyzed their technological capabilities. We know where they're strong. The display zoomed in on heavily fortified systems, and more importantly, we know where they're weak. New markers appeared on the map: isolated outposts, undefended supply lines, and resource extraction sites far from major military bases. Captain Rivera leaned forward. "General, what exactly are you suggesting?" Stone's smile was sharp as a blade. "I'm suggesting that humanity stops asking for permission and starts taking what we need. They want to see aggressive expansion? Let's show them what that really looks like." The room erupted in voices, some shocked, others excited, many concerned. "You're talking about war," someone called out. "No," Sarah interjected, standing beside the general. "We're talking about making it clear that humanity won't be caged. They've made their position clear with this vote. Now it's time to make ours clear in return." Dr. Wright stood up, his voice cutting through the noise. "And if they unite against us, we're talking about potentially hundreds of species with advanced militaries." General Stone's expression didn't change. "Dr. Wright, how many species do you think have actually fought a war in the last 1,000 years?" The question hung in the air. Most of the galaxy had been at peace for so long that warfare had become almost theoretical. Most of these civilizations have enjoyed peace and prosperity for centuries. Stone continued. "They've forgotten what it means to fight for survival. We haven't. And they're about to learn why that matters." Marcus found himself thinking about all the times human colonies had been turned away, all the casual dismissals and veiled threats they'd endured. The anger that had been building for years suddenly felt like it had a direction. "What's the plan?" he asked. Sarah and General Stone exchanged a look, and Sarah nodded. "Tomorrow we send our final diplomatic message to the Galactic Council," Sarah said. "We tell them that humanity rejects their restrictions and will pursue our legitimate right to expand and thrive in this galaxy." "And when they refuse?" asked Captain Vasquez. General Stone's smile was absolutely predatory. "Then we stop being polite." Chapter 3. The Storm Breaks. The next day, Galactic Council Chambers. The emergency session was called within hours of receiving Earth's message. The Great Assembly Hall buzzed with nervous energy as representatives tried to understand what the humans were actually threatening to do. High Counselor Zethkar of the Zephyrian hierarchy called the session to order, its crystalline form pulsing with agitated colors. "The human delegation has requested to address this assembly. Given the unusual nature of their recent communication, we have granted this request." The chamber's massive viewing screen activated, showing Ambassador Sarah Chen standing in what appeared to be Earth's orbital command center. Behind her, the planet Earth rotated slowly, but something was different. The usual scatter of orbital platforms and stations had been replaced by what could only be described as a military formation. "Honored delegates," Sarah began, her voice carrying a formality that somehow felt more threatening than diplomatic. "I stand before you today not as a supplicant seeking your approval, but as a representative of humanity delivering a final notice. Uncomfortable." Shifting echoed through the chamber. "You have voted to restrict our expansion, limit our trade, and confine our species to a narrow region of space. You have done this despite the fact that humanity has never initiated hostilities against any of you, has honored every treaty we've signed, and has contributed significantly to galactic scientific advancement." The Corvan representative, War Leader Gorthak, leaned forward in his seat. "The humans speak of contributions but ignore their aggressive expansion patterns." "War Leader Gorthak," Sarah interrupted, and the casual dismissal of protocol sent ripples of shock through the assembly. "You claim our expansion is aggressive. In the 50 years since first contact, humanity has established exactly 14 colonies across 12 systems. In that same period, the Corvan Empire has claimed 37 systems. The Zephyrian hierarchy has absorbed 41 smaller civilizations, and the Silicon Collective has strip-mined 63 planets to bare rock." The statistics hung in the air like an accusation. Yet somehow we are the threat. High Counselor Zethkar's form flashed angry red patterns. The humans ignore the proper procedures for expansion. They do not seek approval. Because, Sarah said, her voice cutting, through the protest, we are not your subjects. We are not your children. We are a sovereign species with the same rights as any of you to exist and thrive in this galaxy. The Silicon Collective's representative spoke, its electronic voice emotionless. The humans demonstrate concerning military capabilities. Their vessels carry weapons beyond reasonable self-defense requirements. For the first time, Sarah smiled, and the expression made even hardened military commanders feel uneasy. You want to discuss military capabilities? Very well. The display behind her changed, showing a tactical overview of the galaxy. Suddenly, thousands of new markers appeared, small, barely visible dots scattered throughout space. For the past 30 years, while you've been focused on your trade disputes and territorial negotiations, humanity has been doing what we do best, exploring. Those markers represent human vessels, outposts, and observation stations positioned throughout the galaxy. The chamber erupted in voices as delegates realized the implications. Humans weren't just in their designated territory, they were everywhere. Impossible, Gorthak snarled. Our sensors would have detected. Your sensors are designed to detect ships and installations built with your technology, using your energy signatures operating under your assumptions about how space travel and construction should work, Sarah replied calmly. They were never designed to detect humans. General Stone stepped into view beside Sarah, and her appearance caused another wave of unrest. The general was wearing full military dress, and the insignia on her uniform indicated active command status. Delegates of the Galactic Council, Stone said, her voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to being obeyed. Humanity has spent 5 decades studying each of your civilizations. We know your military capabilities, your supply lines, your economic dependencies, and your strategic weaknesses. The tactical display zoomed in on various systems, highlighting critical infrastructure that had previously been thought secure. We know that the Zephyrian hierarchy depends on energy crystals from exactly 3 systems, all of which are lightly defended. We know that the Corvan Empire's military relies on supply convoys that follow predictable routes through space that we've been monitoring for decades. We know that the Silicon Collective's processing centers are vulnerable to specific electromagnetic frequencies that will cause cascade failures. Each revelation sent shockwaves through the corresponding delegation. You are threatening the peace of the galaxy. High Counselor Zethkar's form flashed violent red patterns. No, Sarah replied, stepping forward. You threatened the peace when you voted to cage humanity. What we're doing is making it clear that the cage won't hold. Dr. Wright appeared on screen, flanked by scientists from various human research stations. We're also announcing that as of today, humanity is withdrawing from all scientific collaboration agreements. No more sharing our research, no more joint projects, no more technology transfers. The implications hit the assembly like a physical blow. Human scientific innovation had accelerated progress across dozens of fields in multiple species civilizations. Furthermore, General Stone continued, any attempt to enforce the restrictions voted on yesterday will be considered an act of aggression against humanity. We will respond accordingly. War leader Gorthak stood, his massive form radiating threat. The humans dare threaten the Corvan Empire? We have fleets that could sterilize your pathetic homeworld. Stone's expression didn't change. War leader Gorthak, your primary fleet is currently stationed at Corvan Prime, approximately 47 light-years from Earth. Your secondary fleets are engaged in patrol duties along your borders with the Hegemony Coalition. The display showed the position of Corvan ships with startling accuracy. What you don't have, Stone continued, is any significant naval presence within 20 light-years of Earth. What you also don't have is any defense against the 37 nuclear devices that human infiltration teams have positioned at key points throughout your home system over the past 15 years. The chamber fell into absolute silence. Those devices are not bombs, Stone clarified, her tone conversational. They're much worse. They're gravitational implosion charges designed to destabilize the orbital mechanics of entire systems. Detonate them in the right sequence, and Corvin Prime's sun becomes very unstable very quickly. Gorthic's roar of rage echoed through the assembly, but Sarah held up a hand. Before anyone starts making threats about retaliation, you should know that similar devices have been positioned in the home systems of every major power that voted for humanity's restriction. They've been there for years, waiting patiently, maintained by humans you never knew were there. The revelation sent panic through the chamber as delegates began frantically sending communications to their home governments. "This is terrorism," High Counselor Zethkar shrieked. "No," Sarah replied calmly. "This is what happens when you back a species into a corner and assume they'll submit quietly. Humanity has never started a war, but we've never lost one either." General Stone activated another display, showing human ship movements throughout the galaxy. As of this moment, human vessels are moving to secure key strategic resources, trade routes, and uninhabited systems suitable for colonization. We will no longer ask permission. We will inform you of what we're doing as a courtesy, nothing more. The entire galaxy will unite against you, the Silicon Collective declared. Sarah and Stone exchanged a look, and Sarah stepped forward for the final statement. The entire galaxy voted to restrict us, and we're still here. The difference is that now we're done being polite about it. The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the Galactic Council in chaos as delegates shouted over each other. Emergency communications flooded in from home governments, and the reality of their situation began to sink in. High Counselor Zethkar called for order, but it was too late. The galaxy's most powerful civilizations were realizing that the species they'd dismissed as minor players had just checkmated them all simultaneously. Outside the chamber, emergency fleets were being mobilized, defensive systems were being activated, and military commanders were dusting off contingency plans that hadn't been updated in centuries. The age of polite humanity was over. Chapter 4: The New Galactic Order. 3 months later, UES Perseverance, Kepler System. Captain Rivera stood on the bridge of his ship, watching as the 7th human colony ship in 3 months settled into orbit around Kepler 442b. The massive vessel, New Horizons, was already deploying its automated construction systems, preparing to establish humanity's newest settlement. "Sir," Lieutenant Kim reported, "we're receiving a transmission from the Zephyrian monitoring station on the edge of the system." Marcus suppressed a smile. "Let me guess. They're filing a formal protest?" "Actually, sir, they're requesting permission to establish a research outpost on Kepler 442c. That was new." Marcus activated the view screen and the familiar crystalline form of a Zephyrian diplomat appeared. "Captain Rivera," the alien said, its form cycling through what humans had learned were colors indicating respectful greeting. "I am Sub-Counselor Vethlin. My government wishes to discuss potential collaboration in this system." "Collaboration?" Marcus asked, though he kept his tone neutral. "Your species has proven remarkably adept at planetary development. We have resources that could benefit. Your colonization efforts and your techniques could assist our research goals." Marcus exchanged a glance with Lieutenant Kim. 3 months ago, the Zephyrians had been voting to restrict human expansion. Now they were asking to work together. "I'll forward your request to Earth for consideration," Marcus replied diplomatically. After the transmission ended, Kim shook her head in amazement. 6 months ago, they wouldn't even acknowledge our right to be here. "Fear has a way of clarifying perspectives," Marcus observed. His communicator chimed with an incoming message from Earth. Ambassador Chen appeared in hologram form, looking considerably more rested than she had during their last conversation. "Marcus, I have updates from the diplomatic front. The Corvin Empire has agreed to recognize human territorial claims in exchange for technical assistance with their asteroid mining operations. The Silicon Collective is requesting access to our nanotechnology research." "What about the restrictions?" Sarah's smile was satisfied. "Resolution 47B was formally repealed yesterday. The vote was unanimous. Marcus couldn't help but laugh. Unanimous? Even from the species that proposed it? Especially from them. It turns out that when you're dependent on someone else's technology and they stop sharing, you become very motivated to maintain good relations. The truth was that humanity's withdrawal from scientific collaboration had hit the galactic community harder than anyone had anticipated. Human innovations in everything from medical technology to space travel had become integral to dozens of civilizations. When those innovations stopped flowing, the economic and technological impact had been immediate and severe. Any word on the, strategic assets? Marcus asked carefully. Sarah's expression became more serious. Most have been withdrawn, but we've made it clear that they can be redeployed at any time. The major powers seem to understand the implications. The gravitational implosion devices had never been intended for actual use. The diplomatic and psychological impact had been the real weapon. But their existence had fundamentally changed the balance of power in the galaxy. Suddenly, the major civilizations had to consider humanity as an equal partner rather than a minor annoyance. There have been some interesting developments, Sarah continued. 17 minor species have requested military alliance treaties with humanity. They're tired of being pushed around by the major powers and want our protection. Are we going to provide it? Selectively. We're not looking to become galactic police, but having allies who can vote in the council has its advantages. Dr. Wright appeared beside Sarah in the hologram. Marcus were also seeing unprecedented interest in human educational institutions. Applications to our universities from alien students have increased by 4,000%. They want to learn how we think, Marcus realized. Exactly. They're finally understanding that humanity's rapid advancement isn't due to stolen technology or natural luck. It's because of how we approach problems differently. Lieutenant Kim spoke up from her station. Sir, we're getting reports from the outer colonies. The Hegemony Coalition is requesting permission to transit through human-controlled space for their trade routes. Sarah nodded. That's part of the new reality. Several of our strategic observations posts happen to be positioned along major shipping lanes. Now that everyone knows they're there, we have significant leverage over galactic commerce. Marcus walked to the viewport, looking out at the peaceful scene of human colonization proceeding without interference. So what's next? Are we planning to expand this aggressive approach? Actually, Sarah said, and there was something different in her tone. We're transitioning back to diplomacy, but from a position of strength this time. She activated a new display showing proposed human settlements across dozens of systems. The goal was never conquest, Marcus. It was respect. We wanted to be treated as equals, not subjects. Now that we've established that humanity won't be pushed around, we can return to building positive relationships. With some important differences, Dr. Wright added. All future treaties will be negotiated as agreements between equals. No more accepting restrictions on our growth. No more asking permission for things that are our sovereign right. General Stone's voice came through the comm system, and everyone understands that humanity's politeness is now a choice, not a weakness. They know what happens when that choice is revoked. Marcus thought about the journey that had brought them to this point. 50 years of careful diplomacy, of following rules designed to keep humanity contained, of accepting casual dismissal from species that saw them as inferior, then 3 months of demonstrating that humanity's restraint had been a courtesy, not a limitation. How are the other species adapting to the new dynamic? He asked. Sarah's expression was thoughtful. Better than expected, actually. The major powers are discovering that working with humanity as equals is more profitable than trying to suppress us. The minor species are thrilled to have someone capable of standing up to the traditional powers. And the Galactic Council is functioning better than it has in centuries. When everyone has to consider the possibility that their decisions might have real consequences, they tend to make more thoughtful choices. Lieutenant Kim looked up from her station. Sir, the New Horizons is reporting successful deployment of the first wave of colonization equipment. They estimate the settlement will be ready for the first families within 6 months. Marcus smiled. remembering all the times similar reports had been followed by orders to abandon colonization efforts due to alien objections. Acknowledged. Send our congratulations to Captain Vasquez and her team. As the communication ended, Marcus reflected on the transformation he'd witnessed. Humanity had gone from being the galaxy's quiet newcomers to being one of its most influential players, not through conquest or aggression, but by refusing to accept artificial limitations. Ambassador, he said to Sarah's hologram, what do you think the galaxy will look like in another 50 years? Sarah considered the question carefully. More diverse, I think, more dynamic. The old order was stable, but it was also stagnant. Humanity's emergence as an equal power has shaken things up in ways that will have positive consequences for everyone. Even the species that opposed us? Especially them. Competition breeds innovation. Cooperation between equals creates better solutions than submission to authority. As if to prove her point, Marcus's communications officer announced another incoming message. Sir, we're receiving a joint transmission from the Corvan Empire and the Tau Confederation. They're requesting human mediation in a territorial dispute, Sarah laughed. And there you have it. 6 months ago they were voting to restrict our expansion, now they're asking us to help resolve their conflicts. Marcus authorized the transmission, and soon found himself looking at representatives of two civilizations that had been in a Cold War for decades. Captain Rivera, the Corvan war leader, said, both our species respect human problem-solving abilities. We believe a neutral human perspective could help resolve our disagreement over the Tau-Corvan border systems. The irony wasn't lost on Marcus. Humanity had gone from being excluded from galactic affairs to being called upon to mediate them. I'll forward your request to our diplomatic corps, he replied professionally. After the transmission ended, the bridge fell into contemplative silence. You know what the strangest part is? Lieutenant Kim said finally. What's that? We're exactly the same species we were 6 months ago. Same values, same goals, same methods. The only thing that changed was their perception of us. Marcus nodded. Turns out respect isn't something you can ask for politely. Sometimes you have to demonstrate why it's deserved. His communications officer spoke up again. Sir, we're receiving a priority message from Earth. It's marked for all human ships and colonies. Put it through. Ambassador Chen appeared once more, but this time she was standing in what appeared to be a formal ceremony hall, with representatives from dozens of species visible in the background. To all human vessels and settlements, she began. I'm pleased to announce the signing of the Galactic Cooperation Accords. These agreements establish humanity as a full partner in galactic civilization, with all the rights and responsibilities that entails. The camera panned to show alien delegates from across the galaxy, including many of the same species that had voted for restrictions just months earlier. More importantly, Sarah continued, these accords establish new principles for how all species interact. No longer will expansion and development be subject to arbitrary restrictions. No longer will newer civilizations be treated as subordinate to older ones. The galaxy is big enough for all of us to thrive. Marcus felt a surge of pride as he realized what humanity had accomplished. They hadn't just secured their own freedom, they'd changed the fundamental dynamics of galactic civilization. The age of polite requests is over, Sarah concluded. The age of equal partnership has begun. The transmission ended. Marcus looked out at the Kepler system where human colonists were building a new world under alien stars. In the distance, Zephyrian research vessels worked alongside human ships, while Tau Confederation trading posts prepared to open their first locations in human space. It was exactly what humanity had always wanted, the chance to explore, learn, and grow alongside other species as equals. They just had to stop asking for permission and start demonstrating why they deserved respect. The galaxy would never be the same. Epilogue, 10 years later. Earth, Global Parliament Building. Ambassador Sarah Chen, now Director of Galactic Relations, stood before the memorial wall in the lobby of humanity's governmental center. The names etched in the black stone weren't casualties of war. They were the explorers, diplomats, and scientists who had spent decades patiently building relationships with alien species even when those species saw them as inferior. "They'd be proud of what we've accomplished," said a familiar voice behind her. Sarah turned to see Marcus Rivera, now Admiral of the Human Exploration Fleet, approaching with 2 cups of coffee. "I hope so," she replied, accepting the cup gratefully. "Sometimes I wonder if we could have achieved the same result without the dramatic measures." Marcus considered the question as they looked out the window at Earth's skyline. The view now included several alien architectural styles, as Earth had become home to the galaxy's first truly integrated multi-species city. 50 years of polite requests didn't work, he pointed out. 3 months of making it clear we wouldn't be pushed around changed everything. True, but the transition period was tense. That was an understatement. The months following humanity's dramatic demonstration had seen several minor conflicts, a few trade wars, and numerous diplomatic crises as the galaxy's power structure reorganized itself around the new reality. "Look at the results, though." Marcus gestured toward the window. 37 human colonies thriving across the galaxy. Scientific collaboration at levels never seen before. A galactic council that actually represents all species fairly. Sarah nodded, acknowledging the achievements. The changes had been remarkable. The old system of major powers dominating smaller species had given way to a more dynamic, competitive environment where success was based on innovation and cooperation rather than historical dominance. "The university applications are what really amazes me," she said. "We have more alien students applying to human institutions than we can accommodate." "They want to understand how we think," Marcus agreed. "How a species can go from chemical rockets to faster-than-light travel in 2 centuries. How we approach problem-solving differently. And the irony is that we're learning just as much from them. The Zephyrian approach to energy manipulation, Corvin engineering techniques, Silicon collective information processing. We're all better for working together as equals." A soft chime indicated an incoming message. Sarah activated her communicator, and a holographic display showed Captain Elena Vasquez, now commanding the massive colony ship, New Worlds. "Director Chen, Admiral Rivera," Elena said, her image showing her standing on the bridge of her vessel with a star field behind her. "I wanted to update you on our progress in the Andromeda Approach project." Sarah and Marcus exchanged excited glances. The Andromeda Approach was humanity's most ambitious project yet, a joint expedition with 7 other species to establish the first permanent settlements in the neighboring galaxy. "We've successfully established the first way station," Elena continued. "The Tau Confederation engineering teams have exceeded all expectations, and the Corvin military escort has been exemplary. We should reach Andromeda's outer spiral within 18 months. "Any resistance from the traditional powers?" Marcus asked. Elena's smile was confident. "The Hegemony Coalition actually requested to join the expedition. Apparently they don't want to be left out of the next phase of galactic expansion." After Elena signed off, Sarah and Marcus stood in comfortable silence, contemplating how much had changed. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if we'd continued being polite?" Sarah asked. Marcus considered the question seriously. "We'd probably still be crammed into our little corner of space, asking permission to expand and being told to wait our turn. Meanwhile, other species would be claiming the best systems and establishing dominance over the next phase of galactic civilization. And now humanity is leading the charge to another galaxy, with species that used to consider us threats working as our partners." Sarah's communicator chimed again, this time with a message from the Galactic Council. She read it quickly, then began to laugh. "What's so funny?" Marcus asked. "The Council just voted on Resolution 127A. It's a formal recognition of humanity's contributions to galactic peace and prosperity. Let me guess, unanimous? A32 votes in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstentions." Marcus joined her laughter. "Remember when we could barely get a dozen species to acknowledge our colonization rights? That's the difference between asking for respect and earning it." As they prepared to leave, Sarah took one last look at the memorial wall. The names there represented more than lost explorers. They represented a species that had maintained its principles and values even when dealing with beings who didn't share them. You know what the best part is? She said to Marcus as they walked toward the exit. What's that? We never stopped being who we are. We didn't become conquerors or tyrants. We just stopped letting others define our limits. Outside, the integrated city bustled with activity as humans and aliens worked together on projects that would have been impossible under the old system. Children of multiple species played together in parks designed to accommodate different physiologies and cultural needs. As they watched a group of young humans and Zephyrians collaborating on what appeared to be a complex engineering project, Marcus smiled. The next generation won't even remember when things were different. To them, this cooperation will be normal. That might be our greatest achievement, Sarah agreed. Not just securing humanity's place in the galaxy, but helping create a galaxy where every species has the opportunity to thrive. A small Corvan child ran past, chasing a ball while laughing in the universal language of play. Its human friends followed, calling out encouragement in multiple languages. Sometimes I think about that last transmission, Sarah said, when I told the galaxy that our politeness was ending. Any regrets? Sarah watched the children play, observed the bustling multi-species community that had grown around them, and shook her head. No regrets. But I think I phrased it wrong. How so? I said our politeness was ending. But that wasn't really true. We never stopped being polite. We just stopped being pushovers. There's a difference. Marcus nodded thoughtfully. Politeness backed by strength carries more weight than politeness backed by weakness. Exactly. And now when we're polite, other species know it's because we choose to be, not because we have to be. A gentle alert from Sarah's communicator reminded her of her next appointment, a meeting with representatives from 3 newly contacted species who were seeking guidance on integrating into galactic civilization. The role of mentor instead of student, Marcus observed, reading the notification. That's quite a change. It's a responsibility we don't take lightly. We remember what it was like to be the newcomers. As they parted ways, Marcus heading to the spaceport for his next mission and Sarah to her diplomatic meetings, both carried with them the satisfaction of having lived through one of the most significant periods in human history. The galaxy was vast, full of wonders yet to be discovered, and challenges yet to be overcome. But humanity no longer faced those challenges alone or as a subordinate species begging for acceptance. They faced them as equals, as partners, and as leaders in the continuing story of galactic civilization. The age of asking permission was over. The age of earning respect had begun. And in the vast cosmos, among countless stars and infinite possibilities, humanity had finally found its voice, not through conquest or domination, but through the simple revolutionary act of refusing to be diminished. The galaxy would never be the same, and that was exactly how it should be. The end.